Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins on a snowy Christmas Eve in Canada at another Mason's family dinner. They argue over Virginia's dried up turkey as her husband Darren complains about the lack of any moisture in her thighs. His eldest daughter Gwen's having problems with her disfaithful husband Jason, who's in a not-so-secretive affair with her stepmother. They're all bad people, as even the youngest praises God in her prayers for not making them Samoans for some reason. There's a slight rumbling at the chimney when suddenly Santa Claus breaks through with all the subtleties of a professional wrestler. He punts the family poodle into the ceiling fan and stabs Darren's hands to the table with silverware before setting Virginia's hair on fire. He then drowns her in the bowl of eggnog and kills all of the other members of the family in different holiday-themed ways. He even kills Gwen, who claims she was a good girl this year, before smothering her father with a Christmas turkey. In a small township called Hell, an old woman verbally abuses the young server Nicholas for chewing gum while she chokes on a death stick. She hammers on about being told Happy Holidays at a Jewish deli instead of Merry Christmas, as Mr. Green doesn't celebrate it. She also calls the waitress Mary a harlot on her way out the door before the grumpy woman gets in her car and drives away. She gets out of town when Santa shows up, being pulled by his buffalo berserker, who charges her off the road, causing the old woman to die. Finishing work at the deli, Mary offers Nick a lift home, but his pride causes him to struggle to do it himself on his scooter. Since the snow's too thick, she insists on driving, plus Mary also has a crush on Nick, who likes her in return but not her gun-toting family. He doesn't care much for Christmas either, while Mary enjoys it as much as anyone else in Hell, which seems to be a lot. Nicholas gets dropped home where his grandfather requires opening 3 separate locks to gain entry to the house. Soon the power goes out, so Nick goes down to the basement to flip the breaker when his lost grandpa gives him a jump scare. He's an inventor who's currently working on a portable phonograph and a nutcracker that fires chestnuts at dangerous speeds. Grandpa then shows Nick his secret bunker with surveillance systems, saying that he would rather be called crazy than dead. It turns out Nick actually enjoys Christmas and is only grumpy around the holiday season because his grandfathers never exchanged gifts or celebrated it. He gives Nick a flashlight to make up for it, saying that the only useful gift is a practical one, but Nick demands to know what he has against Santa. Figuring that his grandson's old enough to know the truth, he pulls out an ancient book on the big guy and explains the true nature of Christmas. When Jesus was born of immaculate conception to God, Santa was born of the same anomaly to Satan. Every year on his birthday he would kill villagers, so they began praying for Christ's protection in a ceremony called Christmas. He doesn't finish the story when there's a sudden knock at the door, but it's only Mary with some baked Wolverine that her father shot. She also brings Nick what looks identical to a real gun, but it transforms into a robot, which is apparently something that he wanted. They sit down together, but Nick starts debating about which family's weirder, so the one with a Wolverine hunting father tells him to grow up and leaves. Elsewhere, some criminal tries to rob Santa, but he's stabbed in the eye with a sharpened candy cane and tossed into the garbage like old leftovers. The town's pastor Timmons hustles donations from his church before taking it to a nearby nightclub where he's a regular. Santa shows up and gives his sleigh to the valet before telling the guard he's just come for the ho-ho-hos and strangling him to death with a wreath. Inside the club, he begins kissing any of the women who step under the mistletoe, so another guard tries to throw him out, but he kills him also. Several men attack Santa, so he enjoys killing each of them, including the last brave patron, by electrocuting him with a dancer's pole. The pastor manages to sneak his greedy behind out of there, while Santa uses a piece of red-hot coal to burn down the establishment. He finds that Berserker has eaten the young valet and continues on his rampage right on through until Christmas morning. During the night, Nick learns from Santa's book that an angel came to Earth disguised as an old man to make a bet with the demon. Knowing that he can't resist gambling, they curled stones on the ice, and when the angel won, Santa was forced to turn Christmas into a day of joy. The bet only lasted 1,000 years, which is why on Christmas morning 2 kids opening their presents have their heads blown off. The sleazy preacher sends his condolences to the victims of the nightclub inferno, including dancers Dixie Wrecked and Tess Tickler. Meanwhile, Santa breaks into Green's deli, who tries to fight him off but gets spear-tackled by the son of Satan. Trying to use the Star of David to protect him, Santa just menorahs Green to the wall before searching for his next victim. Nicholas meets Hell's new gas station attendant, where he hears about the attack on a radio in the background. He shoots across town to find Green somehow still alive, and with his dying breath is able to tell Nick that there's really a Santa Claus. The police show up and take him down to the station for questioning, along with all of the Jewish people nearby for some reason. Once downtown, Nick's booked by a Sergeant Dick Zucker, who works for the equally as ridiculous named Captain Caulk and Sergeant Bush. He meets the captain and warns him about the evil Santa, but Caulk's skeptical and throws the kid out, thinking that he's just wasting their time. The police that he passes on his way out have deduced that the new killer has been targeting people in the shape of a Christmas tree. When Caulk gets up to leave his office, he's greeted by Santa, who kills him like he's already done to all of the other officers in the station. He then steals a patrol car and pulls over Mary, having picked up Nicholas from the station, but he recognizes Santa as a stranger. He tells Mary to floor it, but Santa leaps on the truck so she slams on the brakes and Nick uses her father's gun to put one in his chest. It only annoys Santa, who calls for Berserker and continues to chase the kids all the way back to Nick's house. They seal themselves inside the bunker with Grandpa and try to tell him what happened, but carolers arrive to spread Christmas joy. Mary tries warning them to leave, but Santa's already here and begins pummeling them while the kids retreat back into the bunker. Grandpa takes them out a hidden escape tunnel leading to snowmobiles while Santa breaks his way through the house and is briefly distracted by the book. He sees the group on the cameras and confronts Grandpa, who reveals that he's known Santa for centuries as he's the angel from the story. Berserker charges Gramps over from behind and Santa crushes him under his boot, but Nick and Mary manage to flee on a snowmobile. Santa pursues them, wanting to end their whole bloodline, and begins throwing gift trap grenades from his sleigh above them. When the buffaloes ride on their tail, Mary punches it in the head and they reach the town center where carolers crowd around singing. They manage to avoid crashing into the tree, but Santa's not so courteous and disperses the group with his sleigh while setting the tree on fire. He runs down Timmons, who lands in the seat next to him and knocks him out before taking the pastor along for the ride. The kids retreat into their school where they plan to survive until midnight and hope that Santa stops sleighing when Christmas ends. He easily finds them hiding in the library and smokes them out with a gas bauble while shooting fireballs from his mouth. Nick and Mary retreat into an ice rink where they don't expect to survive the night and almost kiss, but are interrupted by Santa on a Zamboni. About to run them over at a very slow pace, he's suddenly stopped in his tracks by a magical curling stone. Grandpa returns as the angel to challenge Santa in redeeming himself with a curling contest that the gambler can't resist. Santa will stop killing forever if he loses, but he wants Grandpa's soul in hell to torture for eternity if he wins. Gramps takes a near unbeatable turn, but Santa throws the old man down the pit, wondering why he didn't just do that before. It hits midnight, but Santa claims that because the North Pole's located in a convergence of time zones, he's able to choose which one he goes by. He still wants his revenge on Nick, but he uses the nutcracker to shoot through his fireball, impaling a flaming chestnut into Santa's chest. Nick and Mary find Grandpa hanging on for life and drag him out of the hole, but Santa recovers and escapes the school on the resurfacer. He retreats back to his sleigh where Timmons thinks that he's just woken from a nightmare but gets bludgeoned with a sledgehammer. Grandpa tells Nick that he gave up all his powers when he fell in love with Grandma and says they need to finish off Santa while he's vulnerable. Not able to help, Gramps must return to heaven, and when Nick cries that he can't do it without him, the angel says that he didn't raise a Sally. Without any better options, Nicholas comes around to getting Mary's family at the gun club to help them shoot down Santa. He then convinces the native hunter Vinny that he must have dreamt of shooting a flying buffalo once or twice before. Planning to go down in history along with the rest of the team, they open fire on the approaching red target, lighting up his sleigh. Before Nick can even fire a shot, the flying buffalo's blown out of the sky by Mary's father, who brought along his bazooka. He says it cost Vinny his voice box to afford and makes sure that it goes on the police report as a registered anti-tank weapon. They locate Santa's body impaled on a flagpole, but it's just their pastor Timmons, as Father Christmas has escaped again. Finally, Nicholas and Mary get their kiss while the hunters pull up with Berserker's carcass slumped over the bonnet. Elsewhere, Santa's gone incognito and buys a plane ticket home under the name of Mr. Shatan. When asked if he has any luggage, Santa produces the single sack and waits with everybody else to board his flight to the North Pole. And the movie ends.
Who's next?